Hello, and welcome into another episode of the 3 to 1 podcast. I am your host, Mac Alexander. This is episode 4, and our special guest today that we have is Dr. Chuck Alexander, also known as Dr. A or Coach Alexander. And to me, he is my dad. So, Dr. Chuck owns and runs a practice in Montrose, Colorado. He is an orthodontist. He's also been a football coach, and has a great story to share with us today. And he is a very special person in my life and someone I've always looked up to. So, Dr. Chuck, how are you doing today?
Hey, Mac, I'm good. It's exciting to be on this with you, man. I'm really excited and impressed.
Oh, there's nothing. This is easy. This is easy stuff. I'm happy we're able to get this done. I know we talk all the time, but you're a very busy individual with a lot of stuff going on. So I appreciate you taking your time to talk to us and share your story with everybody listening.
Oh, I'm excited. It's my pleasure for sure.
All right, so let's just get started with people out there who don't know. Let's talk about what it means to be an orthodontist and kind of, I guess, the thing you enjoy the most about straightening people's teeth.
You know, when you think of an orthodontist, I mean, most people think of, getting your teeth straight, losing retainers. They make a lot of money, but the really cool thing about orthodontics is that you affect people directly and you help them as they develop. You start working with a young person around 8. Sometimes you don't finish them until they're like 15, and so you just see the maturation and the growth of individuals, and little boys coming into young men, and the same for the ladies. And you really have a platform to really impact your patients. And then as a result, you have an impact in your community because of just the people you get to know and the reputation that you can build. So, yeah, orthodontics, it's a science to an extent. You're known as a doctor, but the impact it has on people is extraordinary. And so it's definitely more than just being a doctor, at least in my mind, for sure.
Oh yeah, well, that's awesome. That's a great explanation. That's and something I got to live out and got to see. Not only with you straightening my teeth, but straightening people I grew up with, and different people within the community as well. So before we get started, I want to make sure you're sure that people can't see. It says Smile First 2021. And I know Smile First has been kind of the motto of your office for a while, but kind of talk to us more what Smile First 2021 means.
Yeah, it's actually my wife, your mom, Carrie, saw this shirt somewhere. I'm not sure where she saw it, and so we kind of just stole it. And so for about the last, I don't know, 20 years or so, we've been handing out T-shirts with just say "Smile First," and then on the back has our logo. And we have an incentive for our patients to wear the shirts. We give it to every patient, and if they wear the shirt, then they get extra tokens that we do that you can use to buy different things from our token case and that kind of thing. And so it's been a really, number one, a fun thing, but also the whole background of it is again about influencing and affecting people. And when we talk about faith, and hopefully we'll get into that, but Smile First is like the first step in presenting the gospel to another person. And when I mean gospel, I'm saying God's son Jesus, who came to this earth, died for us and was resurrected. And that joy, that hope, that what we have to look forward to at the end of our lives is so important to me, and I know to you, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners. But Smile First, that's the first thing you do when you're presenting the gospel, is you smile. And I don't go around telling everybody this, but that is the underlying meaning of Smile First. then with this year, so you can imagine everybody's had these shirts for the last 20 years. Now our shirts, and they're usually gray. Now our shirts are red and they say Smile First 2021. And people that have been wearing our shirts, they get it instantly because it's like, oh yeah, we've been doing this the whole time, but because it's 2021, we're really going to smile first, you know?
Yeah.
So it's, you kind of have to, be in the neighborhood to know what we're kind of getting at, but that's what it's all about. Smile first 2021,
Yeah. No, I love it. And it's probably been, the biggest thing in this whole COVID era with masks and everything, the thing you don't get to see are people's faces and their smiles. And it's kind of like I saw someone the other day who had one of those masks that was clear. You could actually see them smile, and it was just so refreshing because you don't get to see that all the time. Just you walk by someone down the street or bump into someone in a grocery store, you don't get to see that expression. I think it can affect you, and then it can affect the way you feel about people and stuff too. So
yes, a huge, your statement is so correct. I mean, how much we read other people, and in my office, I mean, I'm seeing, you're probably around, 80 to 90 different people every day. And if you can't see their face, it's very hard to communicate and see if they're understanding or how they're feeling about it. I mean, eyes don't do it all. So I'm with you, man. Let's get rid of the mask.
For sure, it'll happen. It's going to happen here soon. Okay, so let's go back to your childhood growing up. For all people who don't know, you grew up in the great state of Texas, and so it's kind of walk us through what it was like growing up in Texas, and your parents, and kind of got how you just kind of got started in whole athletics, just into there. We'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was born in Houston, but was raised in Arlington, Texas, there in between Dallas Fort Worth, where the Cowboys are, and the Texas Rangers. And we started off as a modest family in a little neighborhood, and then when I was probably 6 or 7, we moved to a little bit nicer neighborhood, actually right on a golf course, and so my dad was an orthodontist, and so kind of I lived the life you lived for growing up with a well-respected father and a great mom. We had I had a great childhood. I mean, we had our issues, but it was for the most part real positive. And but Texas, I didn't know anything else but Texas. So when you're in Texas, there's other states, but that they're not as good as Texas. That's just how it is. And everybody thinks that way, at least especially back then. There's been a lot more people move in over the years since I left. But so you don't really understand Texas and how cool it is until you leave. And so I got to experience that later on. But obviously sports were huge in Texas. Actually, the first sport I started playing was soccer, because we started playing soccer in 3rd grade. And this was back in this is like the 70s, man. And soccer was just kind of getting going in the United States. And it was really only going like in North Texas. We didn't have, when we first started, there wasn't like a state championship. It was only a North Texas championship. And so, playing soccer, and it turned out to be all the guys that played soccer were the guys that played football. And so we would play football in the fall, and then we'd play soccer in the spring. And, by the time we got in high school, I mean, we had won, North Texas like 3 or 4 different times. And, we'd play football at the high school, then we'd go do our club teams after. And, so soccer was what I got started on, and I think that was good. I mean, it works so good. It works on your feet and moving, and again, working as a team. But then in 4th grade, we started playing football, and, really 4th through 6th grade, we lost one football game our whole life, and I just remember that game was like the worst thing ever happened to us. But we were city championships the other years, and we ran the wishbone, and I was the quarterback. And we ran the true triple option back then. I mean, I'd read the tackle and then read the end or pitch it, and we pitched it a ton. and we had, good running backs, and we'd always kick extra points even in, fourth and fifth and sixth grade. And, and it was set up for all that too. I mean, we had nice fields and, goal posts, and, unlike when you were growing up, I mean, we're out playing in the cow pasture, but it was, it was, I wouldn't say big time, but I mean, it was serious. I mean, we had it's like a college game, all the preps and the cheerleaders and pom-poms and all that stuff was every time you played, so
Yep.
It was fun. It was fun. I had good memories from that. I didn't start playing basketball till like in junior high, but football and soccer is where it all started for me.
Yeah, for sure. So you fell in love with sports at an early age. I mean, I know, our grandpa and your dad, Wick Alexander, obviously played collegiate sports as well and kind of got you into it. So going into high school, did you always want to go play college ball? Was that your plan, college football? What were you kind of thinking going into high school?
Yeah, I stayed a quarterback my whole life, all through junior high, and so I was planning on, number one, I wanted to be the quarterback. Okay. My dad, like Max said, he was a big Texas Tech fan, and my mom went to Texas Tech. My granddad went to Texas Tech. All my aunts and uncles. My great aunt got the second degree from Texas Tech. So I got totally brainwashed, man. I mean, I had no idea. All I knew was Texas Tech, and I knew I didn't want to go to UT. I knew I didn't want to go to Baylor, TCU, A&M, SMU, anybody that was in the Southwest Conference. I just hated, because that's how I was trained.
Yep.
So I'd say, I mean, it was always a dream to play college football, and my quarterback thing though kind of got smashed, or I broke my foot in ninth grade, and after about 2 games, and so the second string quarterback took over. So then when we go to high school as sophomores, and again in Texas, it was a JV team, just all sophomores pretty much. And we fought for the quarterback position, and the coach picked the other guy. And I mean, it was just devastating. I was like, oh my gosh. And at least the coach was smart enough to know one thing: this guy can play somewhere. So they put me on defense as a free safety. And I mean, I don't know if it's just because I was just so pissed off all the time because wasn't playing quarterback, but had a great year. End up as a JV, or as a free safety, I ended up being the most valuable player on the team. I mean, it was just like ridiculous, and had a bunch of interceptions and learned how to hit people, and just, would just come flying down the alley and just light people up and get to the ball. So then we go our junior year, and, I knew I wanted to play safety, and then I wanted to be quarterback, but we had a really stud quarterback. Okay. So, Mr. Brown was his last name. And, anyway, but I did win the second. I was a backup quarterback. So whenever he got hurt or any other time, I always went in. I mean, the coach was great. Like, I'd come in and, we'd throw like a bomb or something. I mean, it was like, he just, I don't know, he trusted us to go do it. But anyway, had a great junior year as a safety, was all district, and, again, had like, I don't know, I think I had 8 interceptions or something like that. They just didn't know I was back there, really. And then my senior year, my plan was, I was going to play safety and quarterback. And that doesn't really happen much in Texas. I'm sure it happens, but anyway, same thing happened. The other guy beat me out, and so I got stuck on defense. And I just went nuts and played hard. And again, whenever they wanted me to come in, I'd come in and throw a pass or something and try to make a big play. But so by the time I got to be a senior, I was thinking, I think I want to play some college ball. I was getting recruited a little bit. I mean, Tech was recruiting me, but I think it's because my dad was paying them. So I don't think that was anything special. But Baylor talked to me. University of Texas at Arlington at that time, where I was living, they had a football program. Stephen F. Austin. So I had a few opportunities, but nothing nothing special. I mean, I was a good high school player, but that's
Mhm.
about as much as you could say.
Okay, well, that's because I know where you where you ended up, you weren't just a good high school player. So you talk about getting recruited. You didn't really, you got brainwashed, just like I got brainwashed growing up, and it was great, and we can talk about that later. But you wanted to go to Tech, so I know the story, but you you didn't get the opportunity you wanted, so you ended up walking on at Texas Tech, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
All right, walk us through kind of going and playing at that time the Southeastern Conference and being a walk
Southwestern,
on. Oh, it was the Southwestern Conference? My fault.
Western Conference, Southwest Conference. That's what they called it. Southwest.
Southwest Conference back in the day. Um, so you went to Tech, you walked on a football team. Who was the head coach that you played for?
Jerry Moore. Jerry Moore just got hired. He'd been at, I think, North Texas. And so Tech brought him in, and he brought this young staff. I mean, looking back, these guys, they were young and inexperienced. And, but it was, we did okay. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry Moore, though.
So being a walk on at that time, kind of what was it like? With the new staff, but they brought in a bunch of guys. You come in as being a walk on, walk on DB. How did you go about kind of earning your spot? And you ended up earning a scholarship. How did you earn that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've never been the fastest or strongest, but I've always been in shape. And so the first thing we had to do when we, as freshmen walk on, is you had to, do the little, run 2 miles and do the agilities and the shuttles and all that. And so it started, I mean, it started there because, I was able to compete with those dudes. And as soon as I figured out that, then, I was just going to get after it and do the best I could. And,
Mhm.
we were the true, the walk-ons, our lockers were in the visitor locker room, and, we weren't with the rest of the freshmen. And, but, I knew some people, so that was good. Okay.
Yeah.
One of my classmates from Arlington went up there with me, and he walked on and became he was our kicker later on when he made it. He should have played corner. He was like the best athlete I've ever known. I mean, in high school there was an article that came out after he had done all these things. It goes, his name was Ricky Gann. He goes, Gann does everything but sell popcorn at the game, and I mean, he scored a touchdown. Running the ball, he caught a touchdown, and he had an interception, punt return, and kick field goals. Just a really stud athlete.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were up there together, so I had a little bit of a friend there, but made friends really quick. And even the guys on varsity were real positive to us and encouraging. And I still know some of the walk-on guys that I walked on with. And so one of the most meaningful things I remember, or hard things, as a freshman, back then we actually had a freshman team, and we would play like New Mexico Military or Ranger Junior College, and
Mhm.
most of the time they would come to Lubbock and play us there. But so we got to play some, and I played a lot of safety. I even played quarterback a little bit, a couple times when they didn't have anybody to go in there. So that was always fun. But my big memory of first time in pads, and we started hitting, and we, just the same lines we do right now. Get in a DB stance, pedal, stick, and go come up and hit somebody, and you both run together. Was Ted Watts. He was tackling me. Ted Watts was an All-American, first-round draft pick for the Raiders, and he was known for just lighting up people, and
Mhm.
that's the guy that tackled me first. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But I got up, and so I just, I was a true scout teamer, man. I would do anything. I'd play safety. I remember playing I remember playing nose guard. I mean, outside backer, just whatever they wanted us to do. We just tried to, make the offense better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So then going into the spring of my freshman year, that's when I kind of got to play with the big guys. And, I don't know what Tech was thinking, but Ted Watts, like I told you, he graduated. He was playing free safety. Well, they didn't have anybody. To play there. And so I got some reps, and all of a sudden, started flying around, hitting some people. And, when pads crack, coaches notice it, man. And all of a sudden, I was like second string, and then I was first string. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of crazy. And so by the end of spring, I was going back and forth between first and second string. And so that was kind of the rule back then. If you got into your number one or two, they give you a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got it. So.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, do you think, looking back, being a walk-on, and I see walk-ons all the time, you kind of figure out the ones who are going to stick and who might not stick just based on kind of their work ethic and how they approach every day. I mean, do you think going back and being a walk-on and earning your way into that scholarship spot kind of helped you, with all the success you've had in your business and practice, be successful?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if it's just because I was just dumb because, or I just didn't want to let anybody else down, or because I didn't plan on quitting. I was going to make it somehow, and, but you think in your life, when you run through your life and you have obstacles that come up and, adversity, I mean, yeah, you fall back on times when you went through the hard stuff and you did it. And so absolutely it's made a huge impact on my life,
Mm-hmm.
going from a walk-on to, getting to start for Texas Tech University.
So what about that first start? What do you remember of your first game, it wasn't AT&T Stadium back in the day, but what is it?
My first game was at Folsom Field here in Colorado.
Oh.
And, against CU. And yeah, I was freaking scared to death. That's how I felt. And I was free. And then we had a senior playing strong safety, and he helped me, Tate Randall. He ended up playing a little bit pro ball, and and he, how safeties help each other and you kind of take care. So he did a great job. The problem was we both got burned on play action like crazy. I mean, I guess we were just so amped up that we were just flying up, and they were just throwing it over our heads. And but it wasn't just me; it was him too. But yeah, it was not a good experience. Not a good experience. The best memory I have of that game, though, is. Back then, in Texas, you couldn't bring any alcohol or buy any alcohol or anything at games. And so, people snuck it in and stuff, but mostly no one was, intoxicated at all.
Yeah.
Well, so we're there at CU, and I'm on the sidelines getting ready to play, and all my fraternity brothers are on the fifth row right behind me, just yelling, "John!" Hey! They're all drinking beer, just totally wasted. And I just remember, wow, what a difference, between conservative Texas Tech and CU Boulder. So that's my first memory, other than feeling like it killed me after that game. It was horrible. I still remember just how horrible I felt. And yeah, it was not good. Not a good memory.
No, it was pretty cool though. It might have been where you fell in love with Colorado because of all the alcohol.
Well, maybe so.
So you played the next 3 years. You got to play in a lot of different games, play a lot of different teams. What was, I guess, one of the best memories you had kind of playing for Tech, playing safety for Tech? And, Tech to me is just a special place in Lubbock. It's like a fraternity. It's one of those schools where you got to be a part of it to love it. And that's what makes it special. And I just, playing there was always a dream of mine growing up. So what was it like? What was your best memory, I guess, from playing there?
Yeah. I mean, a bunch of memories. I mean, getting to suit up for my first time. That's even as a freshman, they let me suit up one game somehow, and we were playing North Carolina, and Lawrence Taylor's on the other side of the ball. I mean, I had no idea that was him, but I vividly remember looking out there and seeing somebody with a really dark face against those white face masks, and I'm like, man, that guy looks mean. And then we go to Baylor, and it's Singletary, doing the same thing. And so those are kind of memories, not really playing, but just seeing people. And
Yeah.
the after started my sophomore year, I hurt my neck, which was a huge thing. We could talk about that later, but so I had to I started and played a lot, and then I didn't play because of my neck, and so I ended up having to work back in as a junior, and that happened at A&M. Somebody got hurt, and I got a chance to go in there, and I made some, really good hits, and we were playing Gary Kubiak and the Aggies down there, and I got a great picture. We were blitzing him all the time. I got smacking him right in the face. I remember that, and so that was a big turning point again in my career where I, hurt my neck thinking it wasn't even going to play anymore. And then all of a sudden got back in the mix. And so that was really cool. We played Eric Dickerson and Craig James, and that was fun getting to, well, not really fun, but I mean, those guys, they were big and big old legs. We would just force them every time they came your way. We would just go for pitch. That was your job. My job is just take them out, even if they didn't pitch it to them. And I just remember thinking, this is like, his legs were like telephone poles. I mean, just huge. I had a couple interceptions, had an interception in Arkansas. I guess getting intercepted in Texas, that was a great, great memory. They just kind of overthrew a little stop, and I was stick foot and came running up and kind of dived and caught it. So, and then your friends. I mean, the people you play with, and I said earlier there, was a strong group of Christian athletes on the team, and upperclassmen, and so it was kind of cool to be a Christian, which was great for me because I needed it. And a Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA, was I got involved in that, and that's really where I truly accepted the Lord as a sophomore. So I mean, football memories great, people memories even greater, because I met my wife that same sophomore year, and Carrie and I have been married like 35 years now or something. So it's Texas Tech was good to me.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad you went to Tech. I'm glad I'm a part of Tech in a little small piece, but that's a lot of great plays, and a lot of them I've seen on tape. I remember watching it growing up, just different hits, and wanted to be like that too. So, all right, so you're coming to the end of your career. When did you decide you wanted to chase the whole orthodontics route? You said earlier that your dad, my grandpa, was orthodontist. His brother was also an orthodontist. And so when did you decide that that's something you wanted to do as well, and kind of go down that path and more schooling and get into the straightening teeth?
Yeah. So as a kid, I was with my dad. He'd always, and my mom, take us to different meetings and as orthodontist meetings. And so you would kind of see the other people and kind of figure out the lifestyle, they were living. But when I went to school, I didn't want to do anything with an orthodontist. I think I wanted to be a builder. I was in the engineering program and went in there for orientation, and they said, if you young people have any plans of doing anything else but studying to be an engineer, then you need to leave. And because I wanted to play football, I was in a fraternity. I mean, I'm like, okay, I'm out. So I left and kind of undeclared. And then my junior year, I decided to just say, it is pretty good what my dad does, and I think that might be a good option for me. So that's kind of when I decided, and I'd made decent grades and took the DAT, and in Texas, there's like 3 great dental schools, and so I got a chance to go to dental school, and really not knowing that much about dentistry at all. All I knew was a little bit about orthodontics, but like pulling teeth or dentures or a crown, I had no idea what all that stuff was. So it was obviously a huge decision, but definitely the right decision.
Yep. So you went to dental school, and for those who don't out there, dental school is a 4-year program, correct? And you went to Baylor Dental School, which isn't in Waco; it's actually in Dallas, isn't it? And
That's correct.
during this time, did you get married to my mom? Kind of how did you guys? I mean, because you're going to school for 4 years, and it's not like dental school. You don't always have time to necessarily have a job or anything. So, how did you guys survive? When did you, marry my mom and stuff like that? So,
Yeah, so Carrie and I met like as freshmen. We were in a biology class together. So number one, that's weird. But number two, my wife's never been in a science class in her whole life, and so, but we were in the class, and then I was in the lab with her, and that's where I kind of started seeing her and say, "Man, she's a pretty cute girl," um, and but she was totally different than anybody I'd been around before because she was real, uh, kind of like a kind of like a hippie. She'd wear those button-up jeans and long hair, and but just real like peaceful and sweet. But then she, when you get crossways with her, she'd definitely stand up for herself and that kind of thing. So we met. I mean, like our first year there, and so she had a boyfriend though, so she would keep her boyfriend, and then occasionally she'd go out with me. Um, the first year we were there, and then by the end of our second year, I think we started dating pretty much all the time, and we're getting pretty serious as we were seniors. But we didn't really talk much about marriage because I was going to school. So I always tell her that she followed me to Dallas and she started working for Baylor Hospital, and and so, yeah, and in that first year of dental school, I just got after it. I mean, because it's like you gotta make the grades to get into ortho school.
mhm.
Um, but by the end of that first year, we were talking and kind of going back and forth. What do we need to do next? And she was convinced we needed to get married, and I wasn't convinced at that time. So this was like in May. So we actually broke up in May, and for the next 5 months, it was just misery for me. I think she kind of enjoyed it, not having me around. But I just had to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and I, knew I wanted to get into ortho school. And then in those 5 months, I figured out that I wanted to marry her. And so, long story short, I surprised her, and we got, we weren't even dating in November, but I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. So that
Wow.
was a good thing. So it was a kind of a, I mean, like you said, it's a hard place to have relationships when you're in dental school. You have to really work at it, but turned out good. She was great, and we, yeah, so we got married and came back to Dallas and finished up, and then we went on to the next step.
And the next step, first of all, I haven't heard that story in a long time. I forgot that you guys broke up and you just proposed to her like that. It's pretty epic right there. Um, but so the next step was go to ortho school. So you're in dental school for 4 years, then you have to go to ortho school now. Did you guys want to go somewhere different? Because you ended up going up to Seattle and went to the University of Washington. Did you guys want to do something different? It was just you want to get out of Texas, explore the country, or just kind of how did that decision come about?
Yeah, very. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I was able to make the grade, so I had opportunities. I mean, Baylor there in Dallas is they had a great school. My uncle was the chairman. My dad taught. I mean, they wanted me, but I got to go to other places like North Carolina and Michigan and Iowa and then Seattle. And I don't know. I really think the Lord just said, man, you need to do something different because if I'd have stayed at Baylor, I would have learned I mean, I've learned it's been great, but I was able to come back from Washington and learn from my dad pretty much what I'd learned at Baylor, I think. And so it gave me a whole different perspective, a viewpoint, all the different people. And so I don't know, that wasn't our goal when we started, was to get out of town, but that's what the Lord led us to. And so Seattle was a great place, a great program, and then a cool place to live. It's totally different than Texas. I mean,
Oh yeah.
most people think Texans are just, hicks, and which compared to Seattle, we are. and but yeah, I took a little getting used to when we moved up there, but looking back, it was one of the best things. Again, really good friends and great education, a lot of opportunities as a result of it. So I really wouldn't say it was like our goal to get out of town, but it turned out to be a really good decision.
But you guys were just led there. And then obviously, you spent 6 years, 6 extra years after your undergrad in school, married. I think it was awesome. You guys got to go to Seattle. I've been to Seattle a few times, and it's completely different than Dallas and just Texas. That's where I was conceived, so I'm happy about
That's true.
So you're done with ortho school. Luckily, you have your dad to come. Did you always want to come work back for your dad and get started back in Texas, or did you want to? I don't know this. Did you want to start your own thing right away, or what was that?
Yeah, I just to give you a little perspective, my dad at that time was probably in the orthodont profession like one of the top 2 or 3 orthodontists in the world from a perspective of teaching, lecturing, writing books, a clinical work. I mean, he had done a lot for the profession, and the profession had given him a lot. So he was traveling all over the world. And he had his own, we call it the Alexander discipline, so own technique and own braces system. So, I mean, I understood I needed to come back because I wanted to learn that system, and
Yeah.
I remember in school, we'd have these little seminars, and there were small rooms with about like 10 people in, and then there'd be an instructor, and they'd go over cases with you and stuff. And, just to kind of let you know what people thought I was going to do, the instructor would say, "Hey, Chuck, what would you do with this case? Now, your dad's out of town, so you got to make all the decisions." And so I think it was just kind of, expected that I was going to go back just because it was such a great opportunity. And that's the way I looked at it too. It really was a great opportunity to be able to have the education in Seattle and then come back and work side by side with my dad. Not only just for our relationship, but just from a professional relationship. He had amazing practice, amazing staff, just the whole, smile first. He didn't say smile first, but that was basically what they did. And the customer service was unbelievable. Learn how to run a business, with all the overhead and dealing with staff. It was good. Definitely good.
That is awesome. I can just imagine you two working together and how, I've been to that office a few times and just how, you guys are very similar and just being so, it was just probably just awesome. People come in there, look forward to coming and seeing you guys. If it's anything like your office, it's probably a special time for all those people. So how long were you in Texas working for your dad?
6 years.
6 years. Learned a lot. And then you can explain this, but I know you felt kind of called to do your own thing, kind of go off. So walk us through that process and, what led you coming to the small town of Montrose, Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, from a professional standpoint, I had one of the best setups ever, as far as learning and having patients, quality patients and interesting patients, working with other dentists and getting to know orthodontists all over the world. I could go once I started working my dad's office, people were asking me to come lecture. I mean, I didn't even know how to spell orthodontist, much less teach it. And but it was just a great opportunity. And but on the other side of it, I was married. You were born right when we started back. I mean, you were born after I'd been working for like a month or something, and it was a business. I mean, and I understand all this now, but I mean, my dad, compared to like my buddies that got out of school, I wasn't making like even half what they were making, and they just started their own thing after 6 years. But I was buying into the practice. And again, um, I had so much I've learned, that you can't really pay for, I guess is the best way to say it. So that was one thing. And then, our family, Carrie and me and you, we were kind of feeling a little bit like the Lord was asking us and telling us that we need a change. And, I'd never thought about it. And just after we've been there about 4 years, Carrie and I were having a discussion, probably wasn't the best discussion, I'm sure, but, and I looked at Carrie and I said, we got to move, don't we? And she said, yes. And at that time we were in counseling. We're about to have another kid, Blake. And so that was really when it started. And so it was a 2-year process of trying to understand what really we needed to do. And I didn't want to leave Texas. I wanted to stay in Texas. And so we looked all over and just nothing fell into place. Again, literally for 18 months. And I was telling you, my dad had that condo in Aspen. Or did I say that? Maybe I didn't say that.
But yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he had a buddy that lived in Grand Junction that I called and said, is there any place in Colorado that might need an orthodontist? And he said Montrose. Didn't know where Montrose was. I mean, but we drove up here on a 4th of July like week. And then in 6 months, January 1st, we had moved to Montrose. And so it was you talk about an opportunity, a real challenge. That was a huge thing. I mean, all my friends in Texas were like so jealous in the sense that we were going to Colorado, but they were like, you're so stupid. I mean, why would you leave what you got, And, I didn't tell you, but my brother's an orthodontist, and he had come back, and he was really, I mean, it's turned out great because he took over the practice and everything's been good. But, for those first probably, couple years, I mean, I didn't know anybody here
Mm-hmm.
and had to kind of make friends and just start from zero. But the Lord was very faithful, and, he provided that first year. We had a great year and just hadn't looked back since, really.
That's awesome. And didn't you write in your journal one time that you wanted to live by the mountains and live, somewhere close to the mountains? Didn't you write that?
Yeah, I was doing, back when we still do it. You guys still do it, but your magnificent obsession. So I went through this whole thing, of all the different goals and values. And then the very end was, what's your magnificent obsession? And I was out at the farm. We had this property, and I was spending the day going through all this stuff. And I wrote down my magnificent obsession was to, live in a log house next to the mountains, 3 kids, 2 boys and 1 girl, and have my wife fly fish with me. That was the 3 things. And yeah, be careful what your magnificent obsession is, because that happened pretty much, except for my wife. Carrie she hadn't learned how to fly fish yet.
But she does go with you though.
Sometimes you're right. She will go with me. That's a good point.
She just doesn't fish, but she'll go with you though. So that counts. No, and I think that is awesome. That's something I think I learned from you at an early age, is to write things down, whether it's your goals or just anything that you wanted, just to remember things. And that's something you've definitely helped me with, and something I've honestly passed on to other people and guys I've coached. I just think, because I think it's really important. And I think it's how you can remember memories. It's honestly how people can remember you once you're gone, and stuff like that too. So, but that's awesome. So I like to say, I tell people ask me like where I grew up and where I'm from. I always say, I was born and raised in Texas, but I spent most of my life in Colorado. And I always said the promised land was calling, because Montrose is the promised land, is what, my brother and I call it, because it's a special place. Um, I'm very happy you moved there. But so you moved to Colorado, don't know a soul. My little baby sister is being born too, right when you guys were moving
Yep.
there. Uh,
Yep.
what was it like kind of starting your own business? That's a whole different world to me. You probably had a little bit of money, but what was it like kind of starting brand new in a town you didn't know, creating a clientele, and just being on your own now?
Yeah. Well, number one, I had the advantage. I knew what I wanted to be because I wanted to be what my dad was basically. And so I had the vision and I knew how to do it. Um, I knew how to do the orthodontics. Now, starting a practice, I didn't really know how to do that, but you get ordered, you order all the stuff you need, you get your building modeled, you bring the chairs, and then you go out and you just start meeting people and you talk to all the dentists. And so you're kind of a salesman and, uh, you know, encouraging them to, send you some patients and then you take care of people. And when you take care of people, then they tell other people and then it kind of just snowballs from there. But, it's about doing quality work. It's about, loving people, caring for people, providing them what they're paying for, and um, building relationships. And that's what's been great in Montrose. We've been able to really, build a community and be part of the community. And it's been, it's hard work. We didn't have that much money. I wouldn't get paid much down there. And then, but it all, we just kind of made it happen. We only had one car for a while and 3 kids and a dog. And it was, it was kind of, it was fun. It was really fun. But, the more money you make, the more complicated your life gets. So
Mhm.
um, it was a sweet time for sure.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. I bet there are a lot of, I can just imagine starting your own business, like, maybe not doubts, but just, probably have rough days, some hard days, especially with 3 kids, young kids, not having a lot of money in a new town, first time, away from family. It's just same thing with, my wife and I just going and doing our own thing. You just grow so much together and grow as a family, and that's why you and my mom are so close. Probably be a big reason of it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Again, it's talking about when you face that adversity, how are you going to respond? And, we just responded by getting closer together.
Mhm, mhm. And your business blew up. So now, how long have you been in business and practicing in Montrose?
So like about 25 years. Yeah, 24, 25 years. So now I'm kind of the old guy around. I don't think of myself like that, but it seems like everybody's, maybe a little younger than me now. But we go to Telluride and we go to Gunnison, so that's expanded our territory a little bit. And
Mhm.
usually have like 15 or so employees. And so I got a great crew and great office and just going to kick it in for another 10 years or so and have some fun doing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you got, my brother, your other son, is kind of taking your path. He's in second year of dental school right now, so hopefully he'll come and take over your business too one day. So we'll see what he decides to do. But you also, so if people don't know, your love of football never went away either. When did you get into helping coach at my high school, at Montrose High School? When did that all start?
So this was like, I don't know, like in 95. So like 15, 16 years ago. And, we would go to some of the high school games and even I remember Carrie looking at me after we'd been at the game for a while, and she'd look at me and say, "This team is terrible. This is not good football." And so as it turned out, the year you were going to high school, okay, first year in high school, we ended up getting a new coach, Todd Casepier. I mean, some of you guys will heard of him, but he's at least in the Western Slope in Colorado. He's a famous name. And anyway, he came to Montrose and he was trying to develop a staff. And Joe Garcia, one of the coaches at the school, was a buddy of mine. And I guess Todd was asking Joe, who else could we get? He goes, well, Chuck, he played at Tech. I mean, he might be able to help. And so next thing I know, Casepier calls me. We go to breakfast, and he pretty much tells me, he said, you need to come coach with us. And I'm like, what? I don't know how to coach. I hadn't even been around football very much lately. And he goes, yeah, your son's coming. You need to do it. Well, we were just about to leave to go on vacation. This was like maybe July or something, July, and leave on vacation. And so we left, and Carrie and I talked about it the whole time we were in Costa Rica and stuff. And then finally she just says, Chuck, you have to coach. You have to help make this team better. And once she said that, man, it was over. So I just, the thing is in Colorado, it's not such a, football is not as important. Like in Texas, you have to be on staff, a teacher to be a coach. And they usually start practice around 1 or 2 because it's part of your curriculum, But in Colorado, that's not the case. It would, practice wouldn't even start till 4 o'clock. Well, if you're an orthodontist and you're treating a bunch of kids, when do kids want to come? After school, 4 o'clock. But I just decided I'm going to give it a shot. And so I just said, okay, I'm out of here at 4. And so my staff, we worked really hard, and I would be scrambling out the back door, getting in my car, changing clothes, and getting my whistle and go run to the field. And so I did that. And it was, I just remember that first year, and you were a freshman, so I didn't really get to coach you, but we had an unbelievable first year. Like before we started coaching, they were 0-10. And the year we took over, we were 9-2. So just a huge difference, and just the show the importance of coaching, and I'm not that me, but I'm just saying Casepier and the Eric Hankey and the Steve Gaber and some of those guys that were there that just really made a huge impact on those kids. And that's what I saw. I thought, wow, this is a whole nother area that you can really have impact on people is coaching. And it was totally different than being in the mouth, and you had competition. That's what I was dying for. It's just, we have orthodont meetings. You go compare who has the best bite and best looking teeth. And I won all those. And I wanted to compete, man. And so it definitely fed that hunger. And so I started coaching then, and then got to coach you as a DB and receiver, and Blake. Ended up being the defense coordinator for 4 years, I think. And that was really fun too, really be able to run the defense and, game plan and all that part of coaching too. So it was a great run, really, really great run. And very thankful for the opportunity and for all the other coaches and players that I played with and worked with.
Yeah. I still remember I don't remember exactly when you took it over. I just remember you were all of a sudden a part of the staff. In middle school, we felt like we were going to be a talented group kind of going into high school, but I never went to a high school game until I was a freshman, just because they were so bad. And so it's kind of perfect timing where Coach Casepier and that group came in with you. And I just remember we went to every game. I had all the press clippings because Montrose was hungry for football to be good again. It's a one high school town. It's not like West Texas, but if you're good at something in Montrose, people will show up in Montrose. And so she got started to be good. The press clippings every week. I remember every Saturday I'd wake up and I would cut them out and I put them all over my wall. I don't know if you remember this, but I put them all over my wall and just looked up to all those seniors. I just couldn't wait for our opportunity. And it was just a perfect storm where I didn't play varsity my freshman year, but for those 4 years with you guys, I think we lost like 8 games or something. It was just a great time. And I was very thankful that happened to be my college career. And I think your staff really helped me and shaped me of me wanting to be a coach. Cause I got to obviously see you do it every day. And then I got to see like Coach Hankey, Coach K Spear, Coach Gaber, who had been with me since I was in 7th grade. And those guys really impacted me and that's why I honestly became a coach. So um, it was a great time. Okay, so that's awesome. So, and you just kind of retired from football, at least for a little bit, to kind of take a break this past season, and I think it's going to be really good for you, and my mom just to kind of, you guys can free up, go do whatever you guys want to do now, and until the next phase of your life. So, kind of taking you've been in a leadership role for a long time, and you've been around other leaders, whether that's coaches, your dad, other orthodontists, and kind of how they handle their staff. What kind of leadership style have you taken on, and why do you believe in that type of style?
Yeah, most leaders don't talk about this very much, and I'm just going to say it. I mean, the problem with trying to be a leader is that you fail a lot, and I think that we see, think in coaches, like Saban or Chris Beard. We were just talking about Tech basketball. I mean, you just see all the good things they do, but for me, to be honest, I mean, my leadership style is the problem I have is I like things done right. and so that's what I have to fight against all the time is, being too critical. So I like to, instead of being critical, I try to encourage. Instead of being critical, I try to teach. And then being very motivational, trying to, give people words of wisdom, little nuggets, especially in the orthodontic office. I'll usually, every morning I'll have something I want to talk about to every kid, and it's just the same thing over and over. But I think, discipline and effort equals result, and there are no little things. I mean, that's one way I lead is by giving little pieces of advice and truth to people. And then my faith is huge. I mean, I'm very, I mean, I'm not overbearing, but if there's a chance to pray for somebody in my office, I'll do it. So I
Mhm.
think that takes a little boldness in your leadership. And then creating that culture. I know people use it all the time, but our mission statement, which is, we want to provide the best care, uh, best orthodontic care in the world in a comfortable, efficient, effective way to create healthy, happy, paying patients. Okay, so that's our goal, and so our culture has to be that. We have to have that kind of feeling coming out all the time. And so, we review a lot about, what we are. And, we want to be efficient, we want to be effective, we want to be comfortable, want people happy, want a good environment. We want to be the best. I mean, I don't want to be looked down as he wasn't very good orthodontist. I mean, I want to be the best around in, our state for that matter. So I don't know if that's a leadership style, but that's how I'd say that's how I try to lead, and prayer, I think, is a big part of that. I mean, I pray every morning with my staff, and, but again, I don't want to act like, I got it all figured out, because I don't, but I think you get up every morning and you go at it again, and you build on every day, and you look back, and 25 years later, you're going to look and see kind of what you left. So
For sure.
that's what I left.
No, but I think, you may say I think it's just you're critical on yourself, but you've obviously been successful, and whatever you've been doing has done a great job, and it's worked. You're one of, Western Colorado, it's a smaller town, but you've been very successful in a small town, but because you're the best, and there's not a lot of other competition, because I look at it as people don't want to come in there because you're there, and you've been kind of dominating in a good way, dominating. But I've done a lot of research in the past on different type of leadership styles, and people may not know how they lead, or if it is, you can, put it in a type of style. But everything you're talking about is servant leadership. In my opinion, what I've done, there's autocratic and dictatorship styles, but being a servant, it comes across, it can come across kind of soft at times, but really it's not. It's just you can still be, you know, um, hard on people and expect success and expect them to do a good job. But at the same time, you're leading by example, and then like no small task is too big for you. You care about people you're around. You put them first, and so that's why I think you're hinting at. You just didn't really all necessarily know it. You did, because you know everything, but they didn't know. So do you agree with me? Do you agree with the term servant leadership? And obviously, our faith is big in our lives, and the greatest servant leader of all time was Jesus. So, and we want to be like him. But do you agree with servant leadership? And that's kind of who you are, and or you can disagree with me too. So,
But no, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, that's definitely how I would like to be labeled. I guess I just kind of see the real me sometimes. And, it's, um, but I would agree that would be the leadership style I would strive for, and encourage people to work toward, for sure.
gotcha.
Yeah.
There's been a bunch of different definitions of servant leadership that I've read and I've studied. If you could put it in like 1 to 2 sentences, how would you describe, from your point of view, servant leadership? I know it's rough. That's a hard question.
Well, it is. But again, I would say yes. You need to be looking out for the other individual. Okay. Um, but at the same time, sometimes looking out for the other individual means you got to hold them accountable, or you got to, even punish them. Okay. Because there's, it's not just a soft leadership. I mean, Jesus didn't just soft leader. He was compassionate. He was loving. He cared about people. But when it, got to the Pharisees and the Sadducees that were, had this, the law that they were under, he confronted them and addressed it and dealt with it. And so, it's a fine line between expectations, pushing people too hard, and then loving people. And I think you got to start loving them first, and then you can kind of move to the other stages of that you need. And once they know that you're with them and you're going to take care of them, I mean, then they start responding back, and then they act like you. I mean, a great example today. Okay, one of our patients, horrible thing. Her dad passed away. He's like 40 years old or something. Just had a heart attack or something. And and my office manager, who works all the accounts and stuff, wrote me a note, said this happened, told me that the patient, the little girl that's got braces on, they owe this much money, and because he died, the insurance went away, and she just wrote to me, Dr. Chuck, is it okay for me to write off the remaining part of her balance? It was like $2,000 or something, and she's learned that from me, because we've done that. I mean, unfortunately, probably, 10 to 12 times over the last, years. And it's just, at a point, I mean, yeah, $2,000, that's a lot of money, but still, considering what they're going through, anyway, I'm not to brag, but I'm just saying my staff said, this is what we're doing, and that's something that I've taught her to do. That's what we want to do. And so, if you bring other people up, then I think you're being a servant leader.
Yep.
Was that 2 sentences?
That was a little more than 2 sentences. But that's okay. I'll take it. I love it. I just think that, growing up, one of the biggest things, I saw you do, and the reason I always thought about being an orthodontist was early on was because the impact and how you could help people, just making people's teeth straight, making them feel good about themselves. And you have time when they're in the chair, you get to talk to them. You can really have an impactful, um, a moment with them to teach them something and help them. And that's what attracted me to be an orthodontist. Obviously, I did not like all the science and stuff behind it. But coaching's the same thing. And I think that's why you fell into coaching and you did such a great job at it, because it's the same thing. But now you have to just coach young kids every day, get them to know that you love them and you care about them, and then coach them hard when they're not doing something right, and then love them up, and then coach them hard again. And that's why I think you're so good at your jobs, because you love and care about people, and it showed with all the blessings you've had and the success you've had in Montrose. It's awesome. All right. So I know I've taken a lot of your time. I know Buckley over there is getting a little excited, your dog. But final question. So you've been through a lot. You've done a bunch of moves. You've obviously, a lot of stuff we talked about was a lot of positives, but I know there's a lot of hard times in there as well. But what advice do you have to kind of the younger generation or younger people listening that are kind of going after their dream, going after their goals? Today's age, I think a lot of people are in for the short success, the money right away out of college, and maybe just taking that job because it pays well, instead of really chasing after something that they want, and maybe getting extra schooling. Just what advice do you have kind of for younger people out there who, just some encouragement to them?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'd say I think it's always been like that. I don't think it's just now that people are wanting instant gratification. I mean, I hear that all the time, and I probably even said it, but I think it's always been, you want to get going, and but I mean, the process is so important, because that's, the ups and downs, the good, the bad. I mean, that's what makes you who you are. And, I like the phrase, man, show up. I mean, people that show up and just keep fighting, and you build it on days, and you dream. Like, I know you're dreaming like where you want to be in 10 years. Well, that's great. But you create that dream by every day building on it, and if that would be my advice, is that don't waste a day. Don't be impatient about, I got to get to the future. I got to get to this place, because as soon as you get there, there's going to be another place you want to go. I mean, that's what I've learned. And, being content, which is so hard to be wherever you are. And then, getting up and working your butt off today, and then do the same thing tomorrow. And so, it's not any sound, I mean, real spectacular advice, but that's what you've done. And, all of our kids have just been really good workers and getting after it. And thanks, Mac, for letting me do this. This has been so cool. I'm so proud of you, man.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, not just because it's podcast, but everything that you're doing. So
I appreciate it. I learned, as everyone can tell, I've learned from a great one. And the last point I want to say is, don't waste a day. I think that's very true. And I heard someone say, everyone says the grass is greener, or it's maybe not always greener, but the grass is greener. I said this on the last episode too. The grass is greener if you mow it and you water it. And so it'll be green if you mow it and water it. And it's just very true. So
that's nice. Can I keep that? I might steal that one from you.
I stole it from someone else. So
nothing new. I think somebody said that. Socrates, I think.
Yeah.
So, well, hey man, good job. Keep up the good work.
Well, thanks.
Tell me what 3-1 podcast, what does that stand for again?
It's Ecclesiastes 3:1. And it says for every season, for every reason, there's a season that you're in right now. That's kind of the whole base of the podcast. So
yes,
sure.
Kind of what we were just talking about. All right, man.
Exactly. But again, Dr. Chuck, Dr. A, Coach A, Coach Alexander, my dad, I appreciate you being on. and I know the audience does as well. And I appreciate everybody out there listening to another episode of the 3-1 podcast, and we will see you next time.